All right, we call this regular board meeting to order at 6:30 on November 14th, 2024. Get a roll call, please.
May's here.
Yes, Sue's here.
Mask on here. Any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the November 14th, 2024 agenda. Thank you.
I'll move it in.
I'll second.
Call the question.
May's aye.
Yes, Sue's aye.
Mask on, aye. Do we have any public participation at this time?
Not at this time, Mr. Mascon.
Okay. At this time, we will adjourn to closed session where we may discuss conference with labor negotiators, public employee discussion, discipline, dismissal, release, conference with legal counsel, or student matters. Can I get a motion?
A motion.
Second. Call the question.
May's aye.
Yes, Sue's aye.
Mask on, aye. 7:30. Owen, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Liberty and justice for all.
Report from closed session. There was no action taken in closed session. Oh. Brianna, would you read the civility statement for us?
Sure. The civility statement states, communicate clearly and concisely with respect for others' time. Listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Understand and respect district policies and procedures. Respect the district's rich history and the efforts of others who have served in the past.
Thank you, Brianna. Dr. Salkin, do you have any public comments? I have a couple of things I'd like to read before we start the public comments. So for starters, each public comment can be 3 minutes and not more than 20 minutes on each topic. So if there are several of you here to speak on the same topic, which I believe there are, so it'd probably pick the people that have the best information on that topic to step forward on it. Additionally, the Board of Education has received information from parents, district employees, and members of the community regarding concerns about the workplace environment at Meadowlark Elementary School. The Board of Education takes these concerns seriously. The district will be retaining the services of an independent investigator to investigate the concerns that have been expressed and report back to the board. The investigation will take some time as numerous individuals will need to be interviewed. Based on the findings of the investigation, the board will determine what action, if any, is warranted. Gary Rowe?
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Coach Gary Rowe, football coach at Vasquez High School with a football update. Unfortunately, our season did come to an end. Although we had a very successful season. We lost in the first round of the CIF playoffs. First time that Vasquez has been in the CIF playoffs since 2015. And like I've stated over the last couple meetings I've gone to, we haven't won a game in 3 years here at the school, and proudly to say that we finished our overall record at 6-5. We came 6-1 in league, finishing in second place, missed first place by 1 touchdown. But again, I'm here on also behalf of the entire coaching staff and all the players. I wanted to thank the school district for all your support, our school, our principal, and all the staff over there have been great to us. We will start our preseason workouts right after winter break in January. We'll hopefully get ready a little sooner than we did last year. But again, successful season. Coach Perez is very grateful for all the help that he gets from the district, from the school, the parents, all the above. So I might not be at the next couple board meetings, but as soon as we start up, I'll be back to give the update, at least a monthly update. And then once we get into full stride in the spring, when spring football starts, I'll come back on a regular basis. But I want to thank everybody, and go Mustangs 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Katie O'Mara here? Please state your name and all that
My-
fun stuff.
yeah, my name's Kate O'Mara. I'm here tonight as a community member. A brief background on me, so you know where I'm coming from. I graduated magna cum laude with a degree in history. I used that degree for years in our family business, which was historical building renovations. As life changes, I was encouraged by my adult children to pursue my interests in education, specifically how students of different neurological types are motivated and perform in school. So I returned to school and received 2 teaching credentials in English and social science. Then I realized what the impact of technology was having on education. So I obtained a master's degree in instructional design and technology. I graduated summa cum laude. And since then, since there's always more to learn, I'm currently working on my doctorate. My work on my doctorate is what brought me to an event here at the district office a few years ago. I was gathering data, as I do. So for the data, the students take a yearly state assessment showing if they are meeting grade level expectations. The CAS scores in this district are of great concern. The data shows that at Meadowlark, the reading proficiency had been 40% in 2021-22. Those numbers have decreased, and last year's numbers, the proficiency is at 29%. This means that 70% of students cannot read at grade level. Numeracy is nearly as low, with 33% proficiency reporting, which means that more than 65% of students at the elementary level can't add, subtract, multiply, and divide. At High Desert, the reading proficiency dropped from 61% prior to the pandemic to the high 20s percentile, or 28% in 2022, 27% in 2023, and 29% in 2024. Math proficiency has consistently fallen from 22% in 2022 to 13.68% in 2024. This means that 70% of students can't read at grade level, and more than 85% of students cannot calculate numbers. At Vasquez High, the reading scores have dropped from 65% in 2023 to 46% in 2024. And the math scores remain at 20%. This means that less than half the graduates can read and 80% cannot numerate. California Ed Code requires a full education for students. This isn't happening for the majority of our students. There are teachers who live here in Acton who drive back and forth to Santa Clarita every day because they don't want their children in our schools. Other teachers have in-laws homeschooling their children to keep them out of our schools. Acton Agua Dulce's school reputation has taken a big hit. Once noted for its education and caring atmosphere with excellent lifelong educators, it's now performing as low as some inner-city urban schools, with a high turnover of teachers and support staff. Violence is a known problem, which may not be reported properly. When it's addressed, the presence of security guards have increased. Research shows that the relationship between low academic progress and the presence of guards and police on campus.
If you have a conclusion on this, we
I
might want to
do.
get to it because we're over our time limit.
I
for your
do. I'm
topic.
sorry.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I should read faster. I'm sorry. So this is a problem. And what I would like to do, what you may have noticed is that I have resigned my position. I was recruited by Yolanda and Eric, and I've resigned my position here, but I do want to continue my research. I'm deeply concerned about the children in our community and their education, and I'm asking the board if I can continue my research to find solutions for this and help our community. And if that's agreeable to you, if you could let Yolanda know what the next steps would be, or if you would prefer if my efforts be used elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Corey Coe. Please state your name. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening to the board. My name is Corey Coe. I am here on my own behalf as a parent of children in the school, as well as the concerned parents, teachers, and members of the community regarding the current leadership issues, potential loss of our amazing teachers. Sorry, I'm a little at our local elementary school, Meadowlark. A petition was emailed, which obviously you have record of this morning with 245 signatures. I'm sure there are more signatures to come. Sadly, the creator of the petition is unable to attend today's board meeting, so I am presenting on her behalf. I do not have time to read the petition, but want to present to the board. I stand here before you because many parents are too scared to sign the petition, as well as speak to the board due to fear of retaliation. Concerned parents, staff, and the union rep for the teachers were here in May, including myself, regarding the same situation, and nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. The parent that spoke at the meeting is no longer allowed to volunteer in a child's classroom due to concerns from administration. The creator of this petition was also threatened that their child would be pulled from the classroom due to vaccination concerns, when there was a written agreement and a due date that was already in place, all just a coincidence, correct? Mostly, the teachers are being retaliated against and intimidated. For standing up with unfound write-ups, aides and janitors are being reassigned to other districts and sites, all because they raised their concerns or questioned the principal in any way. How is this happening when the principal has physically tried to attack a staff member across the table in a meeting? What was the consequences for her actions? Last month, there were parents at the board meeting regarding physical altercations at Meadowlark, and the principal dismissed their concerns. Most recently on Tuesday, November 12th, at the PTO meeting, the principal was very disrespectful and unprofessional when she stormed out of the meeting due to a minor disagreement. There have been countless grievances against her, and there has not been one investigation into any of these matters. Not only that, the grievances and emails are then turned over to the principal, and it continues the bullying and the intimidation, which you may know is illegal in California. Is it professional to call out individuals in an email with all of your colleagues, or omit telling you important information so you cannot do your job? All of these things have happened. Grievances were filed and nothing was done. Has the board even considered an anonymous employee engagement survey to get a better understanding of what is happening in the school? Have you looked at the turnover rate at the school in the prior years and the recent causes of the turnover? 2/3 of the staff and teachers went to the superintendent last school year to complain, and nothing was done. As you know, we are a small district. We do not have comparable wages to other larger districts. With that, it is harder to hire, and now we are losing amazing teachers, all due to one person. These teachers are here because they love the kids, they love the community and the town. At what point will you take action? When a lawsuit for harassment or retaliation against the district and the principal is presented? At that point, it's too late. We, the parents, teachers, and community, are looking for accountability, transparency, and respect. Without these teachers, you lose the students, and we look forward to hearing your plan.
Thank you for speaking. We do hear everything you're saying. I can tell you that we cannot comment on any of it, and all of it being personnel matters. If there were anything to comment on, there's nothing we can say to you about it. Susan Laval?
Hello, good evening. Maybe not all of it that she said, but I'm not a doctor. Didn't graduate from anywhere, but it kind of feels the same. Retaliation, it's a big word that you guys should look into. But my concern and my question is, just recently we were helping at school, and I guess we can't do it anymore because that's taking jobs from the union. I guess complain because we're taking jobs from people working there. but I feel more like it was more like I complain too much for the things I see. So my concern, this past Tuesday, Ms. Jones told us that we're gonna have walks around the school for everybody, including community members. What does that mean? Anybody in the community? Because we have a list of pedophiles. Is this people getting fingerprinted like everybody else that comes in the school? How would that work? Because that is a concern for me. We do have a list of, like I said, these people in the community. Will they be able to come into the school, visit our school? They're just kids. That's basically my question and my concern. And, you know, hope to hear from you guys. How is that gonna work? Thank you.
You'll have to forgive me. The writing's a little hard for me. Liz Dice?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Luz Díaz. Soy madre de una hija que va a la escuela.
Good evening. My name is Lucia
Luz Díaz.
Luz Diaz, and I'm a mother of I'm a parent of a student that goes to school.
Y tengo tres preocupaciones
And I have three concerns
que ya han pasado y no me han ayudado a hacer nada.
that have happened, and I've not received help with it.
El año pasado,
Last
una de
year,
las maestras
one of the teachers
dejó a mi hija
left my daughter
afuera
Out-
en el área de los parqueaderos.
outside in the parking area.
Mi hija tiene una condición,
My daughter has a condition.
no habla,
She does not speak.
tiene one-on-one.
Tiene she has a one-on-one.
Fue el año pasado e hicieron una IP para hacer un arreglo.
This was last year, and they have an IEP for her to an agreement.
Y me prometieron que no iba a volver a pasar, que iban a
They promised me that it would not happen again, that they were going to
tratar de hacer mejor con ella en cuidarla.
do a better job taking care of her.
En agosto,
In August,
un niño de la clase de mi hija
a student in her class
le metió la lengua a mi hija,
put his tongue
la tocó.
in my daughter. He touched her,
Yo no me enteré
and I didn't know about it
el primer día porque no se me avisó.
the first day because I wasn't made aware.
El niño creo tiene, no sé si la edad de ella o menos, tiene otra condición.
And I'm not sure if the student is her age or younger, and he may have a condition as well.
Pero mi preocupación sigue siendo la misma.
But my concern's still the same.
¿Dónde está la persona que está a cargo de mi hija
Where was the person that was
cuando pasan esas
in
cosas?
charge of her during that time when these things are happening?
No puede estar pasando eso.
This can't
Mi
keep
hija no
happening.
habla,
My daughter doesn't speak. She's not verbal.
no se puede defender sola.
She can't
La
defend
maestra tiene
herself.
4 alumnos.
Teacher has 4 students,
¿Dónde están sus ojos cuando está a cargo de mi hija?
and she's not seen this when she's in charge
La
of my
one-on-one
daughter.
de mi hija
The
la mandaron
one-on-one
a lonche
went to
cuando
lunch
pasó el primer incidente
when the first incident happened,
y se quedó a cargo la maestra de ella.
and the teacher was left in charge.
Cuando se dio la vuelta
When-
para dejarla a mi hija atrás afuera en los parqueaderos, ¿dónde estaba la adulta?
And when she turned around, the student, her daughter, was left.
Se me prometió. Sí, los parqueaderos. No, afuera del jardín, en los parqueaderos donde parquean los carros.
Okay, so it is, sorry, wanted to clarify parking lot.
Otra cosa, me prometieron que no iba a volver a pasar, que el niño no lo iban a poner en la misma hora que estaba mi hija en la misma clase, que lo iban a poner en diferente hora para no estar juntos, para
And-
que no volviera a pasar.
And they promised me that this would not happen again, that the student, this happened with the boy, that she was informed it was going to be at a different time when that transition.
El niño, ¿dónde está?
Where-
Sigue estando en la misma clase. Lo
Where's
que
the
me
boy? He
prometieron,
continues to be in the
no
same
lo han
class.
cumplido.
And what I was promised was not fulfilled.
Otra preocupación mía que tengo es cuando mi hija va al lonche tiene que tener, porque se supone que ya tiene un one-on-one.
And when another concern I have is that when my daughter goes to lunch,
Tiene one-on-one para cuidarla y ella espera para que llegue la persona que está a cargo para darle su comida o sentarla donde la tenga que sentar, mientras ella se queda mirando a todos lados.
so she has to wait. There's a period of waiting. She has to wait for the one-on-one to show, to be there so that she can help her with her food.
Y eso se me tenía que haber avisado a mí,
And I
porque
should have
eso
been
es
informed about
sexualmente
that.
hablando, aunque sea de la edad. La maestra está mirándola a los ojos, a mi hija. ¿Qué está haciendo cuando el niño está metiendo adentro la lengua de mi hija?
And she's concerned about when, at that time, the boy was putting his tongue
Porque
in
no habla,
daughter,
no me avisan, porque
because
no
she
hablan,
doesn't speak.
no me hablan cuando se tiene que hablar,
Because I was not informed when
no
I
se me
should be.
informa. Y tengo más preocupaciones, pero sé que tengo tiempo.
And I have more
para decir
concerns, but
estas-
I only have a limited time.
Pero esas 3 preocupaciones, 4 son las más importantes,
Those 3 to 4
de
are the
muchas
biggest
cosas más que hay.
concerns that I have, among the many,
que nomás me hacen que firme una IP
that they have me
donde
sign
se
an
me
IEP,
promete
an IEP,
que van a hacer los cambios y lo van a hacer y no lo
when
hacen.
they promise they're going to make adjustments and changes and they don't.
Entonces yo firmo confiando,
And
pero
I
no lo hacen.
sign trusting, but it doesn't happen.
Y quiero saber si se me va a ayudar.
And I want to know if I'm going to get help.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence, proposals, and reports. Out of representative.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I wanted to thank Mr. Rowe for keeping us updated with the VHS football team. I think that's just amazing and it's good news to hear every week, and I really enjoy what he says, so I just wanted to say that. And then we've turned in our sunshine letter. Hopefully, I don't know if it's on this week's board or next board meeting, but I just wanted to say we're looking forward to our bargaining meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. CSEA representative? No? Student representative of the board? Okay, we'll come back to it. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Vice President Mescon. I'll be keeping my remarks brief this evening. As the superintendent of schools, it was with deep sadness to have received the heartbreaking news of the untimely passing of Tammy Fallsgraf, a beloved student at Vasquez High School. There are no words that could truly capture the sorrow we feel in the face of such a loss. On behalf of the district staff and myself, we extend our heartfelt condolences to everyone affected, especially to Tammy's devoted parents, Ken and Carissa Fallsgraf, and Tammy's loving big sister, Kendra Fallsgraf. Tammy was deeply cherished by our school community. Through her, our advocacy for students with disabilities will remain steadfast, and her legacy will continue to inspire us to foster understanding and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sakian. Student representative of the board.
Hello, everybody. I want to start with High Desert Middle School today. High Desert welcomed their new library aide to campus and are really thrilled with all the new programs and that are opening up to students. Students now have daily clubs that meet, and we are working on building a love of reading. The new library aide's name is Lindsay McGriff. Red Ribbon Week was this week, and it went really successful. HDS Dance is tomorrow night, and ASB also did a wonderful job helping at their bounce house at Fall Festival last month. Hollow Week is next week with activities and events going on every day. And we have a dodgeball night tomorrow. We hope to see everybody there. And thank you for the update from Nurse Carrie and the athletic director, Gina Bottom, for the great season kickoff to the school year. Moving on to Vasquez High School. Earlier today, our VHS community had a wonderful opportunity to come together to celebrate Tammy Fallscraft. The community got to see another creative side and fun side to Tammy. 18 of our incredible students, some from culinary and some from the National Honor Society, volunteered to work the Acton Women's Club luncheon on Wednesday, November 13th. And it was a very fun time, or so said the students that I know that went. Some past events, October 26th, our PTSO students and staff held a very successful and fun fall festival that engaged many of our local community groups. Each and every sport and club that participated had a fun time with the community. We have a field trip coming up to College of the Canyons next week on Tuesday, which I personally am very excited for because I will be going on that field trip. The ASFAB test is on Monday, which I'm sure all of our students who are participating are excited for. Regarding athletics at Vasquez High School, cross country had league finals this week, and the girls' team are qualified for CIF prelims taking place tomorrow. The football team made playoffs, even though they lost in their first round. We are still very proud of their efforts and spirit. We are getting ready to start basketball and soccer next week, which everyone is looking forward to. Regarding Meadowlark, Meadowlark is having a November attendance challenge movie party. Striving for perfect attendance, the students who have no tardies and no unexcused releases are rewarded with a movie party. Meadowlark is also asking for volunteers. And that is all for my report.
Thank you. Facilities and Finance Subcommittee.
So for facilities and finance, we had a meeting this past Tuesday. We talked about requirements to add new classrooms to Meadowlark and all options for more space for that school is we're running out of areas for there. We also talked about maintenance items that are going to be required over the next year and are pretty much a must do is roofs and things like that. And we've asked for more information on the classroom options and getting more budgets and things together so we can try to bring that to the board and make some decisions on trying to get more space at Meadowlark. And we will have another meeting next month.
Does anybody have any questions for the Facilities and Finance Subcommittee? Education Subcommittee report.
Dr. DeJesus and I are very excited for this report. The Education Subcommittee did not have an official meeting. We had a pre-planning meeting. So we did meet on October 24th. It was Dr. DeJesus, myself, and Ms. Paula Chamberlain. We did meet over Zoom. Our additional members that are invited to our next meeting include Dr. Sahakian, Mr. Kai. I'm sorry, I don't know how to. Nguyen, and Miss Jackie. So I'm excited, and that's the meeting that the public will be invited to. So I hope to see a lot of people there. Do you want me to wink at you? What we did go over was our purpose, our district programs. We were looking into things like Avid and Schmoop and Navigate 360 and MTSS. We're looking at our LCAP. We're looking at our CASP scores. We also discussed some campus updates, clean campuses. We're looking at professional development, providing a safe learning environment. There were a lot of things that we covered a lot and touched on a lot, and we really discussed what we needed to prioritize and in what order we wanted to start with. So our next meeting is going to be on November 19th. We're going to meet on the third Tuesday of every month at 3:30 p.m. Here in the district office, as well as have a Zoom option. Our next agenda items, we will have public comment. We will introduce who is on our committee and what our roles are. And we will solidify what our purpose is, what is our main goal. And we will be looking at, our first goal is school safety. So ed code and school discipline will be what we're looking at first, because you can't get any kind of an education, subcommittee or not, without a student feeling safe at school. So that's what we chose to focus on first. And then at that meeting, we will set future agenda items. And that's that. Do you have anything to add?
I do not. You said it all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It looks exciting. Bill, do you have any questions for the subcommittee? No? All right. Dr. Sakian, submissions.
Yes, Mr. Mascon, this evening we do have a submission from Options for Youth, and our Director of Charter Services, Ms. Patterson, will be introducing that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nisha Pattison. I'm the Director of Charter Services, and I will hand this submission over to Brian.
Good evening, Dr. Sahaki and board members. I'd like to submit the charter petition for Options for Youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda?
All motion.
I'll second.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull before we vote on the consent agenda? No? Hearing none. Call the question.
Mays, aye.
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. Personnel action report.
I'll move.
Any discussion? Call the question.
Mays, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. Acton Agua Dulce Teachers Association proposal for the 24-25 negotiations for collective bargaining agreement Sunshine.
Thank you, Mr. Mascon. So Ms. Carrie Wright, is she still here? Yes, she is. So she was on point. So yes, the teachers union has Sunshine the district to open contract negotiations for the current, well, for actually 2024 through 2027 school years.
All right.
That's what we have.
Do we need to move this in or?
Yes.
I'll move. We don't need to vote on it, do we?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
All right, good. Number C, Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District proposal for the 2025 negotiations for collecting bargaining agreement Sunshine. Next one, same thing.
Well, in response to being Sunshine by our teachers union, the district presents their successor proposal for the 24-25 contract negotiations with the intent to discuss two articles at the minimum: salary and employee benefits.
And I will move this in.
I'll second.
That's it. D, approval of job description for intervention teacher. Can I
I'll
get a
move.
motion? Thank you. Any discussion? Should say something. about this.
Was this job description, was this discussed with the union?
I'll defer to Ms. Erdrich, our HR director. And just to add to that, just to put it in perspective, as we look to heighten our response to instruction and intervention at our schools, we're looking to include a new job description, as you see on the job agenda, with the attachment of intervention teacher for future consideration for recruitment. Thank you.
Call the question.
DeJillian, I.
Mazak.
Jesus, I.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. Subject E. Approval of memorandum of understanding between California School Employees Association, Chapter 473, and the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Staff's recommendation that the board approves the MOU between CSEA and our district's chapter number 473 and the school district, which outlines an agreement to create a new classification, behavior intervention implementation, BII for short.
Discussion? Call the question.
DeJillian, I.
Mazak.
Jesus, I.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. Subject F, USC School District Placement Agreement.
I'll move.
Thank you, trustees. As we look to expand our fieldwork opportunities with colleges and universities, USC is looking to partner with us in terms of fieldwork hours at our school sites for 3 areas. One will be for teacher interns, counseling interns, as well as speech pathologists, if approved. Thank you.
Discussion? Call the question.
DeJillian, I.
Mazak.
Jesus, I.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. 10, Business Services. So we have a public hearing, California Voting Rights Act, review of the maps drafted by demographer, maps presentation by legal counsel, and our demographer. We open this hearing now? Open this hearing at 8:13 p.m. Oh, yeah. Read this out real quick. Welcome to the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District's 3rd public hearing regarding the drafting of trustee area maps under the California Voting Rights Act, or CVRA, as it is commonly known. The purpose of today's hearing is to receive input from the public on the maps of the 5 trustee areas that have been drawn by the demographer. After tonight's hearing, there will be a public hearing on December 19th to further discuss the maps drafted by our demographer. Before I turn over the podium to our legal counsel, Ronald Wenkart, to introduce our demographer, Justin Levitt, I am going to just mention a few major points. The CVRA is a state law that prohibits at-large voting systems that impair the ability of racial or ethnic minorities to elect the candidate of their choice. The CVRA favors district-based election systems in which candidates must reside in a trustee area and only the voters residing in that trustee area vote for those candidates. To avoid the potential for litigation and the cost of attorney fees, the board has decided to modify the current election system and establish a district-based system for the 2026 election. This means that beginning in 2026, voters in those trustee areas up for election in 2026 will vote for one candidate in their trustee area, and the remaining trustees will hold an election in 2028. The change in the election system will not affect the 2024 election or school attendance boundaries. I'm now going to turn over the podium to our legal counsel to introduce our demographer and provide us with additional information, followed by public input. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Moscone. I appreciate the introduction. Before I introduce Dr. Levitt, I just want to mention we're also going to have a community forum on November 20th at 6 p.m. And we're inviting the public to participate and provide input on the maps for us to develop any additional maps that might be appropriate for the December 19th public hearing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Justin Levitt, who's Vice President of the National Demographics Corporation, to discuss the maps that have been proposed so far.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Miscone, members of the board, and members of the community that are here tonight, and those of you who might be listening to this later. My name is Dr. Justin Levitt with National Demographics, and it's a pleasure tonight to continue our discussion of our trustee area election system that we are looking to adopt for the 2026 election. Just as a reminder of where we are, the state actually sets a 90-day timeline to do this process. We can get a short extension on that timeline, but unfortunately, we are required to move fairly quickly through a whole bunch of required steps and phases. Prior to election night and back in October, we held 2 forums here at the school district to basically talk about the process and take testimony on communities of interest. This also included another community workshop on Zoom on October 15th. Following that, on November 7th, draft maps were released, and tonight is our first discussion of these draft maps. This discussion will continue at the workshop next week, November 20th at 6 p.m. That's going to be via Zoom, so we hope to see you there. Following that, if there are any revised maps, any revisions will have to be posted by December 12th, in anticipation of approval of a final map at the December 19th board hearing. Following that, the maps have to be reviewed by the County Committee on School District Organization. That is a committee run by the County of Los Angeles that has basically jurisdiction over approval of things like boundary changes and changes to how districts elect their boards. So all of these districting processes for school districts, at least, to go through the county committee. That hearing has to be held here in the district, and we're probably looking at a date either in January or February for that. Either way, we have plenty of time before our first election in November of 2026. To go through kind of the rules and criteria we used in preparation of the draft maps, the state actually lays out a fairly detailed list of criteria that we have to follow. We've kind of grouped them into 3 categories based on their source, but we do have to look at all 3 columns. On the left, federal laws are things that the Supreme Court and other federal courts require us to look at. First is equal population. This is the 1 person, 1 vote principle. All trustee areas have to have more or less the same number of total residents as of the last census. So we use that 2020 census count that the state adjusts for the incarcerated population, divide that number by 5 to get our ideal number for each trustee area. In addition to equal population, we also have to look at the requirements of the Federal Voting Rights Act. While race and ethnicity cannot be the only factor or even the predominant factor in the creation of an area, and was not as part of our analysis here, it was one of many factors we looked at as we were evaluating different draft map options to choose which ones we would present publicly. In addition to that, in our second column are redistricting criteria that the state lays out in the Fair Maps Act. These are rank ordered in this order of priority. First, geographic continuity. This is the principle that all parts of a district or trustee area have to touch. You can't have a little bit all the way on the west end of the district and the east end of the district with no physical connection to each other. Even if the connection is only at a point, it would also not be contiguous. Secondly, communities of interest. This is the heart of the discussion. Where do we see our communities and neighborhoods within the district that need to be kept together for the purpose of their effective and fair representation? This is an overriding principle, everything below it. So if the city boundary or community boundary divides a community of interest, we want to keep that community together first. And third is that cities and census designated places. We have 2 census designated places with population in our district, Acton and Agua Dulce. Now, Agua Dulce has population for about 1.5 trustee areas, and Acton has population for just over 3 trustee areas. And those are just the boundaries that the census defines. there are areas that are not within any census designated place that are still populated. Particularly the southern half of the district, more or less, has people living in it, but they're not part of any particular census designated place. Fourth, easily identifiable boundaries is the principle that the borders between the trustee areas should be easily recognizable to voters. So to the extent we can use major roads, freeways, and whatnot, rather than cutting through the middle of a neighborhood, we should strive to do that. And finally, compactness. This is defined in the law as not bypassing one group of people to get to a more distant group of people. While this is very clearly aimed at hooks and fingers, this is rank ordered for a reason. And especially here in rural areas, we know that there are communities along a particular road that may appear to be kind of elongated or not as compact, but really represent a neighborhood or community along that particular path. And so we want to think of these in this order in order to rank and evaluate the maps. Finally, the state law has a prohibition on considering partisanship or drawing lines favoring or discriminating against members of a particular political party, incumbents, potential challengers. These maps were actually drawn without knowledge of where the trustees lived. And then for sunshine purposes, we added the trustee locations not only to the maps here, but also online where the maps are available to view. That is actually part of this unique part of the process where we have to put on a sequence of elections on each map, which trustee areas elect in which year, which is 100% determined by where the trustees reside within the trustee areas. And so we'll go into that when we look at a specific map. I want to make one more point here. In addition to all the required criteria, you see at the bottom of the second column, or the bottom of the right-hand column, are other traditional districting principles like potential future population growth. Anything that's not explicitly on the list that the state and federal government require can be considered after and only after we consider everything that the state and federal laws require us to look at. So other factors like population growth, attendance areas, all of that would fall into this final box. In addition to our maps here tonight, please go online. We have an interactive review map. We also have PDFs of each of the map. I like the interactive review map, especially because it lets you zoom in and out, lets you search for addresses, lets you overlay two map options against each other. Really great way to see more detail on each of the maps. And so I think kind of starting with those principles really explains how a lot of these maps were drawn. Because in our first conversations, we did hear about our two communities, Acton and Agua Dulce. And we try to keep the trustee areas within and inside of those communities as much as possible. And so if we go back to map 101, I'm just going to say a few words about each of the four maps as we go through. So if we go back a couple slides to map 101. In map 101, our purpose, we actually create two areas here entirely within Acton. The purple area, which is area 4, and the green area, which is area 3. In addition, all of Orange, but that northeast corner, which is unincorporated, not part of a census designated community, is also in Acton. What this map tried to do was divide Agua Dulce then more or less in half, about half the population in the pink area, area 1, and about the other half in the area 2. In order to make the population balance, we do have to go a little bit into Acton, because remember, Acton's going to need at least 4 trustee areas that have a part of that community. And so in this case, we chose to come in pretty much between 14 and Sierra Highway, kind of that little triangle there, because that was directly connected to the neighborhoods in Agua Dulce next to it. If we go to the next map, you can see the differences as we look at a map that has one area entirely in Agua Dulce, everything south of Sierra Highway, north of the community border. We still have that northern tier district, but instead of more of Agua Dulce, this one actually is predominantly in Acton. And so the pink area 1, the majority of the population is within the community of Acton. Area 4 is entirely in Acton. Area 3 is mostly, other than that northeast corner. And area 5 has basically all of the unincorporated areas to the south along Soledad Canyon. as well as a large portion kind of in the southeast of Acton proper. If we go to map 103, another option, I wanted to create an option that didn't really respect the freeway, that kind of used the freeway less as a barrier and crossed the freeway in several points to link communities north and south of the freeway. So areas 4 in purple, area 3 in green, and area 5 in orange all cross 14 within the city of Acton to get areas north and south of it. And then finally, map 104. We wanted to look at one that kept as many trustee areas as possible within each community. This is something that the law, which is a new law, I should mention. It just took effect this January, and we're one of the first districts drawing maps under this new law. And so this map does keep 3 areas entirely in Acton, not using the unincorporated areas, 1 area entirely in Agua Dulce. But in order to do that, you see how the pink district kind of has to wrap around some of the other trustee areas in order to pick up all that area that's not part of either of the 2 communities. So this is something we want to put out there because we think maybe, does the letter of the law ask us to show you this? Probably. Is it the most compact or the best option that looks like it connects the communities that are neighboring to each other? Perhaps not. And I'll also mention on each map, you'll see a suggested sequence of elections. Basically, state law, education code has a provision in it for how we assign areas, trustee areas to an election. And it requires that if there is 1 trustee residing within a trustee area, it must be assigned to that trustee's natural election cycle. If there are 2 trustees that share an election cycle, it would be assigned to that election cycle as well. If there are 2 trustees, but they don't share an election cycle, so one is up for election in 26 and the other would be election in 28, we are required to put that up in the later of the 2 years, essentially filling a vacant trustee area somewhere else within the district first before the trustee area with 2 trustees living in it would be filled. So in map 104, for example, area 2 is vacant. And so that would have to be put up first. And the trustee area containing 2 members on the same cycle would be put up in 2028. This is following the guidance from the LA County Committee on School District Organization. If we go to the final slide, we just are looking at some comparisons across the different plans. A couple things I want to highlight. We do have some ranges in our deviation. That's the difference from perfect equality. If we had a 0% deviation, every trustee area would have exactly the same number of residents. We're allowed up to a 10% deviation. And you can see we have some variation here between 5.8 and 9.7%. I really want to emphasize that, especially in a district as small as this does not mean a large number of people in real terms. A 9% deviation is only about 700 people total from perfect equality. That would be an error, a rounding error, when you look at the congressional map or the state legislative map. Our goal is to keep communities together first, but we do have to stay under 10%. That's kind of our fixed threshold. Our highest Latino CVAP, or citizen voting age population over the age of 18 with US citizenship. It really varies which area has the highest Latino population. And it really is a testament that there is no Latino neighborhood within the district that we could see just using the numbers. And so each of the maps, because they're drawn differently, incorporates different areas and have slightly different numbers. But as you see, the numbers only range from 27% to 31%. That's not a big range because Latino population is spread out throughout the district. And then we have the numbers on how many districts and which trustee areas would contain Acton Agua Dulce. If we have other communities of interest we want to look at, we can certainly add them to comparison in the future as well. Now, in terms of where we are moving forward, this is our first look at the maps. So we know that this is going to be for people, maybe want more time to look at them. Please go to our website. We have all the maps available, both as PDFs and as the interactive web viewer I mentioned earlier. We hope to bring back additional maps to our next meeting that might address some of the questions, criticisms, concerns that we hear, not only tonight, but anytime over the next few weeks. Our deadline for posting revised maps for that hearing, for that December 19th hearing, is December 12th. So that's our drop dead deadline. But if there are anything you want us to look at or to bring back, any requests for changes, we are more than happy to do that. And we're happy to answer any good questions you might have as well.
Mr. Levitt, we're fortunate enough to have a public comment. Any of the trustees have comments first?
I have just a question. I think it's for Mr. Weingart, if you please.
Yes.
So when I was appointed a while ago, about a year ago, there was only 3 of us here. When we just ran for election, there was no, we're uncontested. So there's not a lot of people in line trying to sit up here on the board. So my question is, if there's 3 areas that are empty and no one runs for it, what happens to the board?
If there's 3 empty positions, then the Los Angeles County Board of Education takes over and runs the district temporarily until those spots are filled. So you want to avoid that at all costs if you can.
So with that, I encourage the community members, once this becomes active, to get engaged with their community and, step up.
So point of order, we're actually going to go with the public speaker or the speaker card first. Michelle Van Orn.
So I want to talk with my community hat, not principal hat. So as a community member, Dr. De Jesus actually beat me to the question, but that's okay. My question is not necessarily about 3, but like in any particular area. So like on all the maps, there isn't anyone that lives in Agua Dulce that's currently on the school board. What happens if we can't find someone in the Agua Dulce area that would be willing to run for the school board? Because as they said, there hasn't been a history of a long line of people wanting to serve. And before he answers that, I just want to say thank you for all of you guys, because you guys give up your time to serve here, and your efforts do benefit all of our schools. And so I just want to thank you for being here. It is late nights. All of you guys work. We really appreciate your time. So, and I hope that there'll be people that step up in all these areas, but I'm curious to know what happens if they don't.
Like I can answer that question. If nobody runs in a particular area, then the board is required to appoint somebody from that area to serve on the board. Unfortunately, this has happened a few times in other districts, but they've been able to find somebody or recruit somebody who lives in the appropriate trustee area to serve on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Weingart. Yes. Oh. Are there any other questions from the community on this? Feedback, comments? Don't everybody get up at once. Trustees? Good.
There is on map 1 and map 3, an area which is the Vista Landers HOA community that's split up. I think that should probably be together since it's all one community. Vista Ladera, sorry.
We can definitely look into that and perhaps draw some revised maps if needed.
Thank you.
Two comments that I had. One, on map 101, area 2 and area 1, it cuts the heart of Agua Dulce in half. The downtown Agua Dulce area. In my opinion, I think it's important to keep the downtown Agua Dulce area together. All of the other maps do have that area of Agua Dulce together. So when we're looking at when we're looking at the rules and the goals on slide 3, avoiding division of neighborhoods and communities of interest, that would be important. And then also when we're talking about easily identifiable boundaries, these red lines are essentially imaginary lines, right? There's the red lines that we're going by are imaginary. So when on all of the maps, and please do not redraw all of the maps, but if we could see one map, my favorite is 102. So if you want to redo 102, completely up to you. In that area, can you pull up slide 6? So, area 2 in the bottom where the red line kind of goes like cookie cutter up and then it cookie cutters back up again. I would love to see something that just follows the 14 freeway. That way I know you can't see it on those maps, but when you look closely, there's a road off of Davenport that goes down and it's just the very tippity top of that road that's cut off. And it would be silly to have neighbors that are on some obscure dirt road that are on 2 different areas, in my opinion. So if we could just in that area see a map that just follows the 14 freeway all the way down, I don't think it would change the numbers because we're looking
don't-
over here on this side on the
I don't think
blue,
there would be any population there, or very small population.
but there could be in the future. So what I would love to see is something that follows the 14 instead of following the imaginary
Yeah.
red lines.
I hear you. And that was something that in the old days before the new law, we certainly would have just followed the freeway. So I think that you're right. It can potentially even split communities in the future that might only have access to the north.
And then I do want to encourage people to really look at that rule that says, don't look at where we live. It's not about where we live right now. And I think that's very important to look at the maps and try to ignore those shaded in spaces because that's really irrelevant when we're looking into the future. Because these maps and these areas are going to be here a lot longer than the trustees that are seated right now. So please try to ignore that and give your opinions without the shaded areas.
I don't think anybody's that worried about us. Anybody else have any comments or feedback?
Can I just make one more comment?
Yes, please.
Just that we hope to see I know there's a lot of information, perhaps a subject we're not very familiar with. Please, we talk a lot more about the criteria and the process in our previous meetings, which are available online to view. And we have our meeting next Thursday on Zoom. Would love to see you there. Wednesday, the 20th. I know it's the 20th.
Mr. Levitt, Mr. Wakehart, thank you. I will close that public hearing at 8:34 p.m. B, Resolution 2024.25.09 to approve the Assurance Learning Academy Charter School Renewal Petition.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Patterson, she's already up, to come up to the podium to close the loop on the process for Assurance Academy and the renewal petition, please. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Nisha Patterson. I'm the Director of Charter Services for Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District. Sorry. The district staff has rigorously reviewed the petition for Assurance Learning Academy's academic performance and Assurance Learning Academy's partnerships with multiple Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act service providers. The results of the staff review are that the staff recommends that the board grant the petition for a 5-year term from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030.
Dr. Sahaki, anything to add?
No, it is staff's recommendation for approval. Mr. Mascon and trustees, please.
Discussion? Call the question?
Mays, aye.
Des Husai.
Brianna Taxoni, aye.
Mask on, aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
They look much more relaxed now.
With that, we'll move on. Do you guys have something you wanted to take outside? Item C, approval of destruction of Class 3 records for the Budget and Accounting Department.
I'll move.
Staff's recommendation that the board authorizes the destruction of Class 3 records for the Budget Accounting Department, Fiscal Services, as it's met its retention period as required by the California Code of Regulations of maintaining records for at least 3 years.
Discussion? Call the question.
DeJulian, I.
Mays, aye.
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on, aye. Board comments.
I just have a couple. One, I was at Tammy's memorial before this, and it was a very nice tribute to her that her family put on, and to the Fallsgraf family, we deeply are here for you, whatever you need. And congratulations to the girls cross country team on their going to finals.
Thank everybody for coming, and to the public speakers, we hear you. We take your concerns very seriously. I appreciate you taking the time to come up here and address them. Lastly, I want to send my prayers and condolences to President Plasgraf, his family, the students, and the community for our beloved Tammy passing.
I will reiterate the condolences to the Fallscraft family. I did have the pleasure of being able to work with Tammy when she was at Meadowlark, and everything that everybody says about how happy she was and how she was a light, it's 100% true. You could be stressed out or having a tough day or even having a great day, and she walks into the office, or you see her walking down the hallway, or you get to sit in a class with her, and she really just brightens your day. And she can brighten your day without saying a word, and it's so fantastic. I do know that she is a driving force behind a lot of the things that President Fallsgraf does and what he's done for our district and our board. And I know that she's a driving force behind a lot of things. So condolences to the Fallscraft family and to our staff at all of our schools and our students. She touched so many of our kids, my kids. She was in class with most of my children. So just condolences to everybody. She's definitely going to be missed and remembered incredibly fondly. Moving on to parent speakers, to everybody that spoke tonight, thank you very much for being here. Sometimes we hold a board meeting for only staff, for our admin staff, and all of these chairs are empty, and it's definitely more rewarding. I'm not going to say more fun, but more rewarding when we get to see you. So I would encourage every single one of you to keep emailing, keep reaching out, come to every board meeting, chat us up. We don't know that stuff doesn't change until we know that stuff doesn't change, if that makes sense. If we get told something one time and we think it changes and nobody says anything ever again, we think it's changed and everything's back to lollipops and rainbows. And clearly it's not by looking at your face. I like to live in lollipops and rainbows, and I want you guys to do that too. Please don't quote that. One parent spoke about having several visitors on site, and will those visitors be people that we don't want on site? I will comment on that. I don't usually comment specifically on parent or on public comments. Our schools all have the Raptor system. There's not somebody that's going to come on our site that doesn't have to turn in their ID and be run through the Raptor system. If anybody's on site that is not run through the Raptor system, call Mr. Falsgraf, call Dr. Sahakian, call somebody, because that is not okay. That's not happening. When we as board members go on site, I know that I have to take my ID because I am fingerprinted through the district, but I'm not an employee. I have to take my ID. And when I walk into a school site, they run me through the Raptor system and I get a sticker. So if you see somebody on your site that doesn't have that sticker, they're not supposed to be there, say something immediately. So that Raptor system, when we first got trained on it, I was actually an employee and working in the front office, and the Raptor system sat on top of my desk, and I was the lucky person that had that on my computer. When somebody that is not supposed to be there runs their ID, it flashes red on your computer. It also sends an immediate text to admin, both on site and at the district office. People are notified immediately if somebody is at the district or standing in a school site that is not supposed to be around children. So there will not be random people that shouldn't be on site. So I did want to address that.
Not even a contractor. Everybody.
They're not supposed to
I
be.
know, but no, they're
Yes.
Thank you, board members. To address the folks that spoke tonight, you definitely heard this is a small district. You can make a difference. So continue with your voice and you'll be easily heard. To the Falscraft family, I think for any of you that know Ken and Tammy, our heart certainly goes out to everything that they're going through. Had the pleasure of spending some time with Tammy, and she would sit in our shop and watch us work on dirt bikes. And Ken said something to me about her at one point that I always stuck with me, right? I never really thought of it this way. He goes, "To this may be one of the few times in your life that you'll meet somebody without sin and capable of it ever in their entire life." And it was, it just kind of stuck with me ever since. So we did the only thing we could think of. We strapped her into a razor and tried to get her to swear, but it didn't work. We had fun with it though. But definitely our heart goes out to him. One thing that stuck with me through the week, as I was looking at my email, and every single week I get an email from Michelle Van Ornum about the HDS Hawk happenings and the schedule and everything going on. And I know that takes effort and time to make sure that happens so consistently every single week. And it's very much noticed. And thank you for leading with that example, because it's just right there in front of you every single time. And as a parent, I feel extremely informed. I have kids at your school, so it's meaningful and it's helpful and it's important. I think it's something we can all look to emulate. Thank you. Get a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8.
No,
Well, what do
we
we
have to
do
do-
now? Oh, calendar. Geez, I was in a hurry. Calendar. I know. We have a regular board meeting for December 9th and December 19th and January 23rd. Any issues with the quorum? Future agenda items? We have a Meadowlark presentation, ELD student reclassification, quarterly strategic plan report, CVR updates, board policies, and administrative regulations. Is there anything anyone would like to add? Hearing none, I think we can adjourn. I move to adjourn this meeting at 8:45 PM.
All second.
Call the question? No.
And Julian, I.
Mays, aye. Just who say?
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mask on aye. Thank you for coming, everyone.